Well, howdy folks, it is the grand finale video here today. This is part of a 4-part series I've had over the past few weeks, kind of tracking what's going on out there as far as spending goes, Google Trends data, and this is the last video in regards to the subject. We're only a few days away from Christmas now at this point in time. I took a lot of photos to show you guys some really bad news in regards to a lot of companies. I do have some good news, and I also just went through a ton of very important Google Trends data that I have to show you guys so you understand what is going on out there, what is going on with these search terms and all those sorts of things. And so a lot of important things to show you in this video and get into. And this has been the most fascinating, in my opinion, holiday shopping season we've had in a long time, to be quite frank. And the reason being is we know we went into this holiday season with U.S. consumers in the worst place they've pretty much ever been in, or at least certainly in many decades. We've never really gone into a holiday shopping season with consumers that are this, let's call it poor, just to be quite frank. It's a horrible way of putting it, but it's just the God's honest truth, right? If you look at the data and the savings and those sorts of things going into this holiday season, despite what the banks say, the data shows you that people did not have money going into this holiday shopping season, right? And we've been at the lowest numbers, and we know when people have a lot of savings, spending is usually phenomenal because people love to spend money, especially in the United States of America. But when you go in and folks don't have money, you're setting yourselves up for a lot of trouble. Okay, and so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I've just been kind of grinding it out here at the end of the year and just putting in the work and trying to show you guys a lot of interesting stuff. Okay, first off, the first place I went when I went out today is I went to Dutch Bros, right? Dutch Bros super busy. Now the reason I took this picture, okay, is not to show you that Dutch Bros is busy, because if anybody knows anything about Dutch Bros, they're always busy, okay? The reason I take that picture there is because I've had some people reach out to me and show me like, oh, Starbucks is busy, or restaurants are busy, or there's a lot of people at the mall and things like that. And it's like, yes, of course. There's always going to be a lot of people out and about right around Christmas time. That's the way it is. It always is that way, okay? If you ever see Starbucks and Dutch Bros not busy, we're not in a recession. We're in a depression. Okay, let's be very clear about that. Those places are always busy. When you sell $5 coffee drinks, like people would give up their dogs before they give up their Starbucks. Okay, like those sorts of places are always going to be busy, regardless of the economic climate. That's just the way it is. Okay, Taco Bell's always going to be busy. Texas Roadhouse is always going to be busy. Like and when you're right around the holiday shopping season, people love to go to the mall. Now the question is, are they spending? Or are they walking around with bags and bags and bags of expensive stuff, or are they walking around with nothing in their hands except their smartphone, right? And so that's the big question you have to ask yourself. It's not that is it busy out there, is it not busy out there? It's like, are people spending or not? That's the important subject, okay? I went to Home Depot. Home Depot was not very busy for a Sunday afternoon, and I think Home Depot is in for a struggle of a year in 2023, but I actually think 2023 will be the year where Home Depot stock probably drops a lot, but the worst year for Home Depot will probably be actually 2024, when construction is completely dead. The one thing Home Depot has going forward, going into 2023, is there's still a lot of construction ongoing, but those projects are going to finish up as 2023 goes along. And then I think you're going to see Home Depot's numbers get worse and worse and worse as the year goes along, and the company have to start issuing weaker and weaker guidance as the year goes along. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Home Depot stock dumps big in 2023, but 2023 is not actually the bottom for their numbers. I actually think 2024, or maybe even potentially 2025, will be the bottom for their actual numbers. But in terms of their stock price, don't be surprised if that one actually bottoms in late 2023 or at some point in early 2024 in the first couple quarters there, okay? So that's just kind of my thinking in regards to Home Depot. They've benefited so massively from record amounts of homes being built in the history of the United States of America, record amounts of apartments being built, warehouses, everything, right? Plus, everybody's spending so much on their homes over the past few years. They've benefited almost better than anybody over these past few years. But unfortunately, all those things that have been benefiting this company are all going to start to slip away. And for that reason, I think Home Depot's in for a struggle of a time. From there, I went over to Best Buy. Best Buy is always a fascinating place to check out around the holiday shopping season, okay? And I saw some items that they were definitely loaded up inventory-wise, and I saw some items that were definitely very low, okay? And first off, Dyson vacuums. They definitely have plenty of Dyson vacuums if you need some of those. Flat screen TVs. Most of these flat screen TVs are anywhere between $400 and about $1,000 roughly, right? And some of them go more expensive than that, but that's the price point. So they're not cheap. They're not cheap. Okay. That's the bottom line. Like TVs aren't cheap. I think we all know that, right? $400 to maybe $1,000. And what I saw continuously is, and by the way, these are all TVs back here. TVs. Definitely looks way heavy on inventory for TVs this close to Christmas. I mean, we're only a matter of a few days away now at this point in time. And for them to still have this sort of inventory just loaded on the floor there definitely kind of gives you a little sign of like, wow, it seems like TV sales are definitely pretty darn weak. This is another section here of just a ton of items they just have on the floor there laid out, just hoping to sell them obviously in these last few days, and we'll see what happens there. This is another angle of just a ton of other just random products they have out there, whether it be espresso makers or Roombas or all those different items just laid out on the floor there, hoping somebody obviously comes buys them. Things like PlayStation 5 area, obviously extremely strong demand for all those products. They have had some supply chain problems in terms of Sony, but those are sorts of products that just show very strong demand, just to be quite frank. PlayStation, okay? Apple Pod Minis, I don't know if maybe somebody stole them all, because you never know when it comes to Apple products, or if they actually sold them, or maybe they just put them all in the back room because they're afraid of people stealing them. I don't know, okay? All I know is that shelf was all empty, so that's good news. And at the end of the day, these HomePod Minis, I feel like that's a popular gift. Most of them come right under $100 price point, so it's kind of in people's wheelhouse. You're not talking about spending $500 or $1,000 or something like that, right? And so it seems like something that's a natural, like, easy gift to give somebody, one of those speakers, right? Whether it's your kids or your parents or whoever it is, right? A friend, something like that. It seems like that sort of price point there, okay? Now you want to know some great news. I do actually have some rare great news for you guys. It looks like Corsair's products are moving great, and it looks like inventory is extremely lean, okay? This is the Elgato section, which is owned by Corsair, CRSR, if you didn't know. And they look like they're running extremely lean on inventory with several outs and several other products. They only have one in stock, okay? This was just they have a lot of inventory of just all that there on the floor there. The Corsair area itself, look at this, guys. The area is depleted, okay? So it looks like Corsair, this is the best situation for Corsair. It looks like they're going to go into 2023 with very lean inventory. Now, they already talked on the latest conference call and the latest investor conference about being very lean on inventory. The reason this matters so much is they're going to go into 2023 with a channel that is very low on inventory, which means essentially they're going to be able to fill those channels up in 2023 and actually report very, very respectable numbers, because a lot of these companies, including Best Buy, have wanted to sell through as much inventory as possible, essentially, which is, honestly, it hurts Corsair's numbers in the short term, but it's a benefit over the long term, because think about it, Corsair could just load the channel up and they have a million keyboards and a million this and a million that, right? And then all of a sudden Corsair, they don't have any sell-through, right? Because then it's like they have to wait several quarters for those products to move through, right? And folks like Best Buy and some of these other retailers, they went into this year, 2022, with probably too much Corsair inventory. And then Corsair had to report kind of disappointing numbers throughout the entire year. This entire year was a huge disappointment for Corsair because the channel was too loaded with inventory. Going into 2023, completely different situation for Corsair. And so don't be surprised if, despite whatever happens in the economy, do not be surprised if Corsair actually reports very respectable numbers throughout all of 2023. And that can't be said for most companies out there, okay? This was also a huge area where there's a ton of Corsair products and other company products as well. And this was just completely empty as far as all these computer accessories. That was good to see. This is kind of like a memory type area, which obviously Corsair is huge in that, and definitely a lot of outs in this area. So it looks like a lot of these product sales are actually pretty darn good, and it looks like sell-through strong and inventory is going to be extremely low, which bodes very well for Corsair and some of their competitors going into 2023. So that is definitely something that is a good news out there in a situation where we don't have a lot of good news. After that, I went to Whole Foods, had to get something, and saw Honest diapers there, man. It's always beautiful to see Honest. I mean, the great thing about Honest is, people pay up for that brand because it is a premium product versus all their competitors. And, people, they're always willing to spend extra money, obviously, on their kids and on their dogs. And so that's always a beautiful spot to play, okay? Now, let me start showing you some extremely scary Google Trends data, okay? Now, folks, what I'm about to show you should be startling. Anybody that is still thinking the economy is great, people have so much money, all these companies are going to report great numbers and things like that. I always tell you, Google Trends is our friend. And if you follow Google Trends over time, you're usually going to be able to tell when business is really strong for companies and really weak for companies, okay? And what I have to show you right now is extremely scary for everybody watching this video right now. And if you're thinking about where the market's going, if you're thinking about where these companies' revenues and earnings are going this year, definitely be concerned, okay? First up here, Best Buy. This is over the past 5 years. And what we're seeing is Google Trends is the weakest by far we've seen in a Christmas time period in years. This is the past 5 years. And I mean, look at every time around Christmas, you get this massive spike up for people searching, Best Buy. And this year, it's just not there, man. It's just not there at all. So Best Buy, they said, it's going to be a good holiday shopping season. We'll see. Google Trends is not telling us that it's going to be some super strong holiday shopping season. If anything, it's telling us it's going to be a very bad holiday shopping season overall for Best Buy, okay? Corsair is holding decent in there. That's a good news for Corsair. It's obviously not as strong as it was during Rona, but honestly, we may never reach those sorts of numbers in terms of excitement, people searching Corsair products. That was a once in a 100-year situation, right? Where everybody's all sitting at home, on their computers, gaming a lot, all those sorts of things, right? So Corsair's numbers are holding decent, but obviously they're not back to where it was, obviously, when, everything was peak craziness in 2020, right? Louis Vuitton is not seeing the pickup it has seen in other past years around Christmas time. You look at these past periods and these past spikes, right? It's not there. This is where we're at now for Louis Vuitton, right? And I went by that Louis Vuitton store yesterday and I showed you guys pictures in that video, right? Of it just looking like it looks like there's a few people in there window shopping. No one's actually buying stuff, right? And they went so high with their price points at Louis Vuitton that I don't know what's going to happen if we have a really rough economy in 2023, because they've gone so high with their price points into these, almost everything in those stores is now priced at $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and even up from there. And they've pushed the price point so far, and it's been great for their margins and great for their net income, but they pushed it too far, in my opinion, at this point in time, where even a premium brand like that is going to find, oh crap, we're not able to move product. And so they're either going to have to drop price and come out with some products that are, let's call it more somewhat realistic prices, or they're going to have to just not do revenue and just not do earnings and just going to see revenue absolutely fall off a cliff. Google Trends is our friend, and it's not telling us it's good for Louis Vuitton. What about other luxury players in the game? Well, you look at Chanel. It's holding decent, but it's not where it was even in December of 2020. It's certainly not where it was last year around Christmas time, right? When everybody was flush with money and all those sorts of things. So yeah, it definitely shows us a trend in terms of these high-end brands. You look at, Tiffany. Went by the Tiffany store yesterday, like no shoppers, but a whole bunch of workers on the floor thinking they were going to sell a ton of diamonds, right? And if you look at these past peaks, they were a whole lot better than this most recent peak, right? Every single one of these are better than this year. And so don't be surprised if Tiffany's numbers aren't quite there. If you look at Gucci, okay? Gucci's numbers look at where we were at last year. Look at where we're at now. But here's the difference, okay? Last year's holiday shopping season, we went in with consumers actually in a great place. In December of 2021, people had actually rather large amounts of savings. And after that, people's savings started to deplete massively. And now we're down to pretty much the lowest numbers we've seen in recent times. Let's just call it that, like decades, basically, right? And I can only imagine where we're going to be at. Can you imagine when we see the January numbers for savings rate? Oh my gosh, it's going to have to be just flat out awful, okay? Now, if you look at other big ticket purchase items, right? A search term like flat screen TV. This one's been falling for a bit, but now it's pretty much at the lowest we've ever seen it in the past 5 years, right? If you look at something like smart TV, look at these past peaks we had, right, around Christmas time. Because, TVs are always a popular subject and popular thing to get around Christmas time. And look where we're at now. It's just people don't have that extra $500 or $1,000 or $1,200 to buy a new big flat screen TV. And the numbers just simply aren't there for devices like that, right? Apple's in trouble. I'm trying to warn people about this. A lot of people aren't listening, and it's okay. Look at the Google Trends for MacBook, okay? I mean, this baby is not in a good place going into the holiday shopping season. You know, you look at past years, it was in a much, much, much better place, even years ago, than it is today. And so don't be surprised at all if MacBook sales fall, and fall quite considerably in 2023. What about iPhone? This is the most important product for Apple by a mile. And if we look at the search term iPhone, not good, guys. Not good at all. I mean, you look at these past peaks, all way better. Way better. This is obviously when the newest iPhone came out, so there's just a lot of people searching it when it first drops, right? And you look at the numbers, not there. And Apple, here's the thing about Apple. They're going to blame it. When they are missing numbers and they have poor guidance, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, oh, it's because of China. This is because of supply chain problems and we can't get our hands on inventory. They're going to use that as an excuse. Tim Cook and those guys, they're going to use that as an excuse. Just know that's all BS. It didn't matter if this company had 85 billion iPhones in inventory. At the end of the day, they have a demand problem now. And it's not because necessarily the company's bad. It's because the economy is falling off the rails and it's falling off quickly, okay? iPad, not as high as any of these past time periods. Every single one of these past time periods is higher than it is right now, okay? And so if you look at their Google Trends data, what do you think it's going to mean for Apple's iPhone revenue, MacBook revenue, iPad revenue? It's likely going to mean it's going to go down, okay? And that's what we'll see in 2023. Look at something like even AirPods. Even AirPods, which is one of Apple's cheapest devices, right? Even AirPods, as far as search term for AirPods, not what you would expect. Look where we were at last Christmas for AirPods. Look where we're at this Christmas for AirPods. You know, as I say, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie, okay? The data doesn't lie. Now, it goes wider than that. It goes into a company like I own, right? Which I want to start buying this stock heavily again in 2023, but I'm not right now. And look at Tesla. In this past 5 years for Tesla Model 3, the search term has fallen off a cliff. I'm telling you, Tesla has real demand issues for 2023. I don't care if you're looking at Model 3, Model Y, Model S, Model X, it doesn't matter. They're gonna have a struggle of a year. Analysts have this company growing 40%, and I'm telling you, they're not even gonna get close to that number. And the Google Trends doesn't lie. We look at so many different data points, and things aren't adding up for this company to have a great 2023. It's just not adding up. And it's not because Tesla's a bad company or something like that. It's just simply the economy's falling off the rails, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing Tesla can do about it. And as Elon Musk keeps tweeting about, the Fed needs to do this, Fed needs to do that, stop raising rates. He's doing this because he's seeing the data come in. That man looks at Tesla's numbers, I can guarantee you, almost on a daily basis, the revenue numbers, the order numbers. And what he's likely seeing is, the numbers aren't coming in. The Model 3 orders aren't coming in. The Model Y orders aren't coming in. The Model S orders and X orders aren't coming in. That's what that man's seeing, okay? If we look at Tesla Model Y, obviously search demand is down massively here, right? And, Model Y was what carried this company, especially this past year. The numbers have been incredible, but it's not going to be able to next year. Look at Model S. Model S. I mean, I don't even need to say anything. Like, the chart tells the story. I mean, that's awful. It's simply awful. It's the worst it's been in years and years and years and years, right? It goes bigger than that, right? Look at search terms like homes for sale. It's fallen off a cliff, to be quite frank. I mean, we're at the lowest numbers we've seen since late 2018 now at this point in time. I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse. I think in terms of search terms like homes for sale, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, to be quite frank. If you look at a search term like Zillow, look at this baby. I mean, it's all the way down to basically where we saw in late 2018. But here's the big difference. Here's the big difference, okay? In late 2018, the Fed, essentially right around January of 2019, actually, the Fed basically pivoted, and they decided to start, bringing down interest rates again. The problem is the Fed can't do that right now. We've got a minimum of 6 months, but a potential of 12 months to 14 months of the Fed still working against the market and not pivoting and continue to work against this economy and continue to work against the stock market and assets and everything like that. And that's the different dilemma we have this time. And that's why at some point in time, it will be sunny days, but it's not today. And I think that's an important part for everybody that's watching this to understand, okay? Appreciate y'all. Much love as always. And have a great day.